And so that's it for the first episode of my guide to amazing fridge magnets. There we go. Lovely. Awesome. Oh, that was so good. I can't wait to see how many people download this. I'll just publish it and have a look at how many downloads I've had in the morning. Oh, a lovely morning. Oh, let's go log into my Libsyn account and see how many downloads I've had, shall we? Wait, what? Not one? What the hell? Podcasting sucks. Yeah, what you've just heard there is someone who is one of the many, many thousands of brand-led podcasters who don't prepare their strategy. Thankfully, this episode is all about the correct method for launching your podcast from the beginning. When you think of podcasting, you probably imagine dull, poor quality, distorted conversations being held between people you'd never ordinarily listen to, even if they were in the same room. But there's another side to podcasting, and it might surprise you. I'm Neil from Podnose Productions, and it's my goal to help you ignore the static, edit out the misinformation, and learn the truth about how to make a noise in your space. This is Your Business Needs a Podcast. You'll be totally forgiven for thinking that you've got it all figured out when it comes to releasing your podcast. After all, you've been successfully running other aspects of your business for a while now. You know how to do it. You're organized and you have systems. Why would this podcasting thing be any different? Well, funny you should ask. This episode is all about learning the many ways in which it is very different. Now look, successful podcasts don't just happen. I mean, there is a certain amount of luck and chance involved in a super successful podcast, but those super successful shows don't happen if there hasn't been a certain amount of strategy that's put them in that position in the first place. Okay, let me put it in a way more catchy and LinkedIn style, millennial friendly way. A well-planned podcast can become huge with a bit of luck. But a bit of luck won't be much help for a podcast which hasn't been well planned. There is quite a thorough process that goes into a successful podcast launch. And if you don't successfully launch, you will find it harder to have success with your actual episodes. There are many aspects which can have an impact on how well your podcast drops. I said that so that you and your kids will think I'm cool. And not at all ironic.
Hey, how's it going, bros? My name's PewDiePie.
I'm not going to talk you through every single detail of how to maximize the launch strategy. That's what my premium coaching service is for. But I can give you a heads up on what you need to be looking at. Your title. What's your podcast called? Is it The Johnny Johnson Show?
Who?
Oh dear. That sucks. Not being funny. The people in the Dog and Duck pub might know who you are from your legendary karaoke performances, but my cousin Sheila, her 3 kids, and their family Shih Tzu have no idea who you are. Sorry to burst your bubble. Unless you have a huge brand, don't use it or your name in your podcast's title. Your why. This is the heart and soul of your podcast. Your mission statement. Your reason for doing it in the first place. The other day I had a conversation with a lady who's quite local to me and sort of known in showbiz thanks to the joys of reality television. We have a mutual friend, and that mutual friend suggested she chat with me about helping her start her podcast. Here's how that conversation went. Hiya, so what's your plan?
I want to do a show where my mates and I chat about showbiz.
Why?
My mates and I are in showbiz and they're all doing podcasts, and I think it's important I get involved.
What's your goal?
Dunno really, not thought about it.
Let me suggest someone who can help. Email .com.
Can't you help then? I heard you were the ideal person for this.
No, I'm not the ideal person for
Oh.
this. Sorry, But good luck with it, and let me know how it goes, okay?
Okay, thanks.
If you don't establish a decent and authentic why, your podcast is probably gonna fall flat. Artwork. This aspect is easily overlooked, but you need to at least give thought to your show's artwork. It doesn't exactly have to be a constable or a Pollock.
I beg your pardon?
Pollock. But it does at least need to look like it hasn't been designed by a 5-year-old in PowerPoint. There are so many apps now that can do this for you, there really is no excuse. Equipment.
Testing.
You need to have the best possible equipment from the beginning. Yeah, you can buy that Skype headset and scale up later, but if you wait until you're 10 episodes deep before you start sounding good, you're risking shedding 2/3 of your potential audience from the start. Hosting. Have you got a decent and professional host that will get your shows out to the destination platforms quickly and in a reliable way? The platforms can be slow. Apple can take up to 24 hours to display your latest episode. What you don't want is a hosting company that takes forever to upload that information to them. Stick to using reputed companies like Libsyn and Blueberry. Avoid the babyish ones, and definitely don't use Anchor.
I beg your pardon?
Anchor. Social media. Have you set up all the relevant channels for your show? You may hate Twitter, but your audience perhaps doesn't. You may think Instagram girls won't be interested in listening to your car maintenance podcast, but you'll be surprised how many people who pee standing up are using that platform. Do your research. And that takes us nicely onto the most important aspect of all. Know your listener. There's a very complex way of figuring this all out, and it involves taking time to really focus on it. Without accountability and direction,
I beg your pardon?
Direction, that can be hard. So it's well worth considering getting yourself a podcasting coach to talk you through this process. I'm around to help you with this, or you can choose from one of the many hundreds of podcasting coaches that you'll find in the UK alone. And I'm quite sure there are probably double that number in the US. But be warned, there are a lot of people who claim to be podcast coaches who are hobby podcasters themselves. Always investigate how many shows they've launched that are not their own. This is the way of figuring out if they know what they're doing. Okay, Google, find me a surprising podcast of the day.
Okay, here's the surprising podcast of the day.
NatWest Bank's show is an interesting one. If they were any other brand, this wouldn't really work. Thank then that they are NatWest Bank. The show started off a few years ago as Women in Business and had June Sarpong hosting it.
I've committed the ultimate political sin.
Chatting with inspirational females from the business world. June might have become the first ever example I've heard of someone being made redundant from a podcast.
My heart sank.
Because she's seemingly been replaced by business journalist Steph McGovern.
This is your Titanic moment, Steph.
Okay, I'm going to kick off my shoes for this.
Here we go.
Adapting to the new now is basically the same show, but now it's hosted by Steph McGovern and has a new title. But you can still see older episodes on their podcast page. I mean, it's all a bit clumsy and a mess, frankly, but what you can hear is okay. Although Steph McGovern could probably do with some lessons in mic technique. And you know what? They could maybe edit it a little bit more professionally in places. But it's okay. Honest. You should give it a listen. Here's a clip.
The thing that interests me is, obviously, like, for a long time being a business journalist, I've talked loads about flexible working, and that is not a new concept, but it's had to be adopted overnight by pretty much everyone. And unsurprisingly, you know, some business owners, some employees are struggling with it.
Part of the challenge is that we're not asking people to work flexibly or work remotely in a normal environment. So we're expecting people to adjust to all sorts of different life changes all at the same time. And People Puzzles has been a completely remote, flexible setup since we started the business, so 10 years. And we have always got people together for key interactions and moments where we really need to communicate with everybody together.
Well, that's it for another episode. But don't worry, Episode 10 will be with you before you can say subscribe for subscribe and review for review. And that one is all about profiting from your podcast. Yes, the bucket of gold at the end of the rainbow. Until then, see ya!
Podnose Productions.